Am I the a-hole for demanding to check my brother's girlfriend's bags before they leave my house? A bit of background here. I, 39 female, have a brother 32 male who I'll call Chase. Chase has been with this girl, 35 female, who I'll call Vivian, for almost 2 years now. About a month into their relationship, Vivian got pregnant with my nephew, who is now almost a year old. Vivian also has 2 daughters, 5 and 8, from a previous relationship. Her daughters are very close in age to my daughter, 7, and up until last weekend, everyone got along fine. They live in a different state than us, but come to visit fairly often and stay with us because we have the extra room. Last weekend, they came to stay again, and about an hour before they left, my daughter noticed that a few of her favorite toys were missing. The girls were playing all weekend, so I didn't think much of it and offered to help her look for them. After about 20 minutes of searching, we could not find the toys anywhere, so I asked Vivian's girls if they remembered where they were playing with them last. The girls said no, but acted a little guilty about it. I asked Chase and Vivian about it, and Chase said he saw the exact toys in the room that Vivian's girls were sleeping in. We went to check, and they were not there. He asked Vivian if she had moved them when she packed the girls' things that morning, and she said they were not there. We went back into the living room, and I saw Vivian's girls huddled close together over a backpack and quickly close it when they saw we were there. Chase asked the girls again if they knew where the toys were, and this time they didn't say anything and just looked at their mom. Chase reached for the bag, and Vivian lost it. She started yelling at me, saying how dare I accuse her daughters of stealing, and she tried to snatch the bag away. Chase opened it, and there were the missing toys, plus a few more. I was absolutely furious. I told her I wanted to see what else she had and demanded she open the 2 suitcases. She said that was an invasion of her privacy and tried to take them and leave. Chase stopped her and made her open them. She had taken several tops, a few skirts and dresses, and a brand new pair of Nikes that belonged to my daughter. I took everything back and told her she and her girls were not allowed back into my home. I have since received several texts from her and a few unknown numbers, telling me I embarrassed her and upset her girls because they were promised the items. Chase is upset with her, but said I was too mean to her in front of everyone, and that I could have handled the situation more privately. I do feel awful that her girls left crying, but am I the a-hole for how I handled the situation? Edited to add answers to a few questions I keep getting. I'm not sure who promised the girls the items. She wouldn't elaborate, but I'm assuming it was her. She wanted me to pull her aside into a different room away from Chase and the kids to talk the situation out. Yes, I'm 99% sure the baby is his. He's almost a carbon copy of my brother when he was a baby. I do not believe the girls knew they were stealing the things. I honestly believe their mom told them I said it was okay. We've never had problems with the girls before this. They really seem to be good kids. Also, I'll be talking with my brother tonight or tomorrow to discuss things further. Not the a-hole. I may not have thought to open the suitcases. I would have thought the girls just stole the toys. But the clothes makes it seem like it was Vivian's act, especially if the girls were promised them. Who else would promise them? Your brother, his wife and children and stepchildren shouldn't be invited back. Anyone saying anything to you can host them themselves or shut the heck up. I normally wouldn't have thought to check either, but the way she grabbed them and tried to leave set off all the warning bells in my head. And who was there to be embarrassed in front of? It sounds like it was just your 2 families. You don't want to be called out as a thief? Don't steal. I embarrassed her in front of Chase and my perfect daughter, as she called her. Not the a-hole. Holy crap, that is a hot mess. You should not feel bad for their crying, but you might talk to your brother about his terrible choice in partners. Our family never really loved her, but she has never done anything before this, to my knowledge. That was a major red flag. Unfortunately, even if he does leave her, he's stuck for another 17 years. Tech has come a long way. These co-parenting apps are insane. My friend's baby mama is a psycho who lived for drama. They got the parenting apps and she did her normal behavior on the app. She lost custody for a while since those apps are monitored. She claims to have not known that. They have co-parented actually decently since she got some rights back. They haven't spoken a word to each other in 10 years. Lawyers handled all the details at first. That said, her kids hate her and don't speak to her anymore. Your brother is screwed and he knows it, so he is just running damage control. I'll give it a week or so and bring that up. Thank you. Next story. Am I the a-hole? It turns out I'm innocent, and suddenly everyone wants to come back into my life. It's a long story, but I'll try to keep it to the most important parts. I'm 27 female now. My ex-partner, 26 male, turned out to be a really terrible person. Over time, he convinced almost everyone in our lives, our friends, family, and even my boss, that I was the problem in the relationship. He painted me as someone who was aggressive, dishonest, and constantly faking illnesses. It nearly ruined my education too. The worst part was when he stole money from his grandparents, around $15,000 if you convert it to dollars, and then told everyone I was the one who did it. While I was at work, he took the opportunity to pack up and disappear, and he took a lot of my belongings with him. What followed was 2 brutal years of legal battles. During that time, I lost almost everyone in my life. Friends, family, one by one they either distanced themselves or cut me off completely. No one believed me, and if someone did stick around at first, they eventually left too. Finally, in February, the court ruled in my favor. It was clear I didn't do what he claimed. The whole version of events he told people fell apart under scrutiny. As a side note, it also came out that he had been cheating on me for years throughout our 9-year relationship, and right after he was done with me, he tried to do the same thing to my best friend. After the verdict, some of those same people who had cut me off suddenly started reaching out again, acting like nothing had ever happened. There were no apologies, no acknowledgement of what I went through. They just tried to slip back into my life like those 2 years hadn't existed. At first, I felt strong and confident in setting boundaries. I turned them away. But last week, I had a therapy session that made me question everything. My therapist told me I should try to see it from their perspective, that they were hurt too and believed in something different, that maybe I should give them space to explain. Now I don't know how to feel. On one hand, I think it's really unfair to excuse what they did just because they were misled. But on the other hand, I keep wondering what I would have done if the roles were reversed. Part of me feels like my therapist missed the mark, and maybe I need a new one. But another part of me is stuck in this loop of guilt and doubt. I don't know what the right move is anymore. You need a therapist who isn't on his high freaking horse. You got through the most difficult 2 years without the a-holes who abandoned you. You can get through life without them. Or you can tell them to apologize and move on, not the a-hole. Trying to act like nothing happened and it's all good is BS. There needs to be an apology, an admission of wrongdoing, of not believing or supporting OP during this arduous process. A discussion is needed and a new therapist, as the current one is full of crap. Not the a-hole. Nobody believed you. They abandoned you when you needed them. They never questioned why, if you were guilty, would you take it to court and fight for years? Why your story never changed, or even tried to listen to you? Your therapist has a point, but it's a point covered in red flags. Get a new therapist. Not the a-hole. Your friends abandoned you. They are not your friends. Yes, not the a-hole. You were trusting those people, and they did not repay that trust, and instantly believed somebody who treated you horribly and worked to ruin your life. They do not deserve your attention and are no longer friends. Next story. Am I the a-hole for getting a disabled lady charged? I don't believe I'm the a-hole, but a friend disagrees. Not in the US. I had surgery on both legs after an accident. It was for both ankles and my left knee, with the left leg being substantially more serious. The recovery meant that I was wheelchair-bound for 5 months. My right ankle recovered enough that I was able to drive myself around after a month, so I ended up being given a temporary disability card to help with using the wheelchair. The problem is that my daily driver is a manual, so I can't shift the gears. However, I had a second car, a Toyota Supra I've had for donkey's years. It's automatic, so I could drive it at that point. It's not comfortable or easy, but I could get around in a pinch. Trouble comes when I went to meet friends for food. I parked in a disabled parking bay, placard displayed, and began to haul the chair out and set it up. Credit to anyone who does this daily. A lady approached me from an adjacent disabled bay and said I shouldn't be parked there. I explained that I have a temporary permit due to my legs and I'm well within my rights. I was being as reasonable as I could. She did not like this and started screaming that I probably stole the placard and that if I could drive my racer car, then I could park elsewhere and leave the disabled spots to people truly disabled like her. From then on, I just ignored her. I wasn't going to change her mind anyway, and I got into my chair and went to grab some food. About an hour later, from the window of the restaurant, I saw this lady walking away. On her way past my car, she emptied what looked like one of those glass soy sauce bottles, the kind you get at Japanese restaurants, onto my car, and once it was empty, threw the bottle onto my hood and continued on to another store. My friends and I saw this and ran out to the car. Sure enough, there was soy sauce everywhere and a new fist-sized dent in the hood. I took down her license plate and called the non-emergency police line. They had someone nearby who arrived in about 10 minutes. The police took my statement about the situation, including her confronting me earlier and the new dent in my otherwise straight car. I explained where she had gone, and one of the officers retrieved her from the store to get her side of the story. She admitted to taking and throwing the bottle to damage my car, and I had about 5 witnesses. The cop asked me if I wanted to press criminal charges. I knew it would make it easier for me to get my vehicle repaired through insurance, so I said yes, that, and she was a prick. The lady was ticketed pending a court date. She ended up getting charged, had to do an anger management course, and pay the repair costs. I feel like I was in the right for getting her charged. I didn't do anything wrong. I acted within the law and was respectful. However, a friend got angry after I told him. He said I was making a disabled person's life harder than it already is. He said she was probably sick of people parking in reserved spots and just lashed out, and that I hardly explained myself to her. He told me it was just a dent in my car and not something to ruin someone's life over. I do see his side, but I didn't force her to do any of this. Am I the a-hole? I'm disabled. I have multiple sclerosis and walk with a cane, and I'm only 44. People can be nasty to me because I don't look old enough to be disabled. I've been accused of using someone else's tags before, by a cop no less. You have every right to park where you did. Yes, people illegally park in our spots all the time, but that's not your fault. I always look to see if there are tags on a car before I make assumptions. I've never approached anyone that didn't have tags, let alone those who do. I can't imagine the type of person that would actually vandalize a car like this. Disabled people can be a-holes too. She deserves all the repercussions coming her way. Tell your friend to kick rocks. He should be sticking up for you if he is so concerned about defending people with disabilities, because you are disabled too. It's not just young people. My grandmother had someone say something to her when she was in her mid-80s. She could walk, but she has foot pain and wasn't steady and couldn't walk very far, and her doctor didn't want her walking across big parking lots. She was so humiliated. Not the a-hole. From someone disabled. Disability does not give anyone free rein to act like a prick. It does not give them the right to be abusive or break the law. It does not let them get away with anything or use their disabilities to try and be the person they are. A person being a prick is a prick. Them being disabled changes none of that. They have consequences, the same as someone not disabled. So tell your friend from someone disabled. Don't be a prick thinking that being disabled lets someone act that way. It only goes to show how they enable someone to be abusive and use their disabilities as an excuse. Grow up. And remember that actions have consequences, and we are taught that as a child. If you can't act like an adult, then it's on you when it goes wrong. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my neighbor I am not her replacement daughter? I, 20 female, have a neighbor who lost her daughter in an accident 4 years ago. I've lived next to her most of my life, and we used to be relatively close. These people have a history of crossing boundaries and just being weird. After the funeral, she kept making remarks about how similar I was to her daughter, and her husband had to jump in at one point and say that I'm not her, that I'm my own amazing person. She kept trying to invite me over to hang out with her in the backyard every summer too. In August 2024, this neighbor was drunk in her garage, and I was talking to her when she called me her replacement kid. I didn't say anything because what the heck are you even supposed to say in that situation? Then she started acting like my mother that same summer when I was living alone, always asking me where I was going and who I was going with whenever I left the house. I told her nicely to stop and that she was not my parent. She did stop for a while. Then she started saying I was like a daughter to her and was always trying to hug me every time I saw her. And that made me really uncomfortable. At Christmas time, I got a long text from her basically trauma dumping about how her other daughter was in the hospital and how her cat had an ear infection. And she attached a very graphic photo of a severely bruised stomach. I did not want to see any of that. I did not want to be the person she keeps using as an emotional crutch. She refuses to get help to cope with the death of her daughter and keeps trying to use me as a therapist. So I told her this over text. I am very sorry that you've had a rough month, but that last message was such an inappropriate thing to be texting me. You should not be trauma dumping on your 19-year-old neighbor. I am not your therapist or your family. I certainly did not want to see that photo of what I assume is your daughter's bruised stomach. And I'm certain she doesn't appreciate you telling people her private business. Lastly, I need to make this very clear. I am not your kid. There is no our beautiful girl. I am not your daughter. And it has been making me and my parents very uncomfortable every time you've said that. I am not your replacement daughter, no matter how much you want me to be. The fact that you actually said that to me one night was insane. Wishing you a better new year. I heard nothing back from her until yesterday, when she decided it was a good idea to flip me off and stare me down as I was getting into my car with my friend. We were confused but left it alone because whatever. But when we came home, she started yelling, "Douchebag!" at me and screaming about how I would never be like her dead daughter and how much better than me she was. Should I have called the cops for harassment? Should I just ignore her? She's obviously very hurt that I kicked out the emotional crutch she had been using me as, and I do feel bad for her. But I will not allow her to keep using me as a therapist and making me uncomfortable. Not the a-hole. Dumping about how her other daughter is in the hospital. She actually has another daughter? Yep, she has a second daughter who gets overlooked and forgotten by her own mother because she is so obsessed in finding her dead daughter in everything. Look, I'm going to give you not the a-hole here, OP, because your message was neutral enough to be civil. But the question needs to be asked here. Where is her husband in all of this? He was able to recognize her inappropriate comments at the funeral. Has he said nothing, done nothing all this time? Block her number, ignore her, but talk to her husband if you get a chance about how inappropriate things have gotten and why you had to send that message. Just so he understands the fallout he's going to live through. I would not encourage a 20-year-old female to talk to a grieving older man who is already ignoring his wife's continuing bad behavior. It's not her job, not her responsibility, and could make the situation much worse. It's very unlikely to do any good. Honestly, it's better to stay distant. People like that don't want help. They want enablers, and you said no.